Okay, in order to watch the following video on Bertrand Russell's Why I'm Not a Christian in 3D, you will need to get some scissors and print a copy of the 3D glasses you see here, and then cut around the perforated lines. Take the end product and put it on the middle of your nose where the indenture is on the glasses, so that you can see the following in 3D. So at this point, pause the video until you have created the 3D glasses you'll need for the rest of the video. Okay, after the countdown, we will begin the video. 3, 2, 1. Let's start out with Russell's definition of Christian. Russell says to claim to be a Christian requires you to believe in God and immortality, and to at least believe that Jesus was the best and wisest of men. And that's actually what Russell does. He argues that there is no God, there is no immortality, no soul living after you die, and that Jesus was not the best of men, and that he was not the wisest of men. So really, that's how he goes after Christianity. He goes after each part of what he thinks it takes to be a Christian.
The subject about which I am going to speak to you tonight is why I am not a Christian. Perhaps it would be as well, first of all, to try to make out what one means by the word Christian. It is used these days in a very loose sense by a great many people. Some people mean no more by it than a person who attempts to live a good life. In that sense, I suppose, there would be Christians in all sects and creeds, but I do not think that that is the proper sense of the word, if only because it would imply that all the people who are not Christians, all the Buddhists, Confucians, Mohammedans, and so on, are not trying to live a good life. I do not mean by a Christian any person who tries to live decently according to his lights. I think that you must have a certain amount of definite belief before you have a right to call yourself a Christian. The word does not have quite such a full-blooded meaning now as it had in the times of St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas. In those days, if a man said that he was a Christian, it was known what he meant. You accepted a whole collection of creeds which were set out with great precision, and every single syllable of those creeds you believed with the whole strength of your convictions. What is a Christian? Nowadays it is not quite that. We have to be a little more vague in our meaning of Christianity. I think, however, that there are two different items which are quite essential to anybody calling himself a Christian. The first is one of a dogmatic nature, namely, that you must believe in God and immortality. If you do not believe in those two things, I do not think that you can properly call yourself a Christian. Then, further than that, as the name implies, you must have some kind of belief about Christ. The Mohammedans, for instance, also believe in God and in immortality, and yet they would not call themselves Christians. I think you must have, at the very lowest, the belief that Christ was, if not divine, at least the best and wisest of men. If you are not going to believe that much about Christ, I do not think you have any right to call yourself a Christian.
Now, why is Russell using that funny definition of Christian? Well, here's why. He's being strategic. It's a stipulative definition. He's stipulating what it means. And what he's trying to do is to include everyone who wants to be called a Christian as a Christian, but to exclude anyone who doesn't want to count themselves as a Christian. For example, Muslims believe in God and immortality, but they don't want to be called Christians, of course. So he makes a requirement about belief in Jesus. Now, why doesn't he just say you have to believe that Jesus was the Son of God or God or whatever? Well, it's because he wants to include those who might not believe that the miracles occurred or that Jesus was divine. So he's willing to include anyone who counts themselves as a Christian because they believe Jesus was the best and wisest of men. And of course, that's what he's going to ultimately try to debunk. God, immortality, and that Jesus was the best or the wisest of men. He's going to try to show all those are false. Now, if you'll excuse me here, I'll have my cup of joe.